Hi, this is the series The Twilight Zone, Episode 2. Our goal is 300,000 subscribers and only you can support us. Justin Sanderson, a well-known investigative journalist, goes through airport security. Before takeoff, he notices his magazine and decides to grab it, but a stranger beats him to it. The man recognizes Justin and admires him. He says that he is a fan and asks for an autograph for Joe. A girl announces boarding for flight 1015, which coincidentally departs at 10:15. Please proceed to the gate. This is the flight for which Justin has a ticket. Justin gets in touch with his wife and he promises that this time, at his new job in a new country, he will be able to feel better. His wife reminds him of his therapist's words. The past is already gone. And Justin starts to feel a bit calmer. He tells his wife that he noticed a strange coincidence in the numbers of his flight and the departure time. Justin is flying in first class, and as he enters the plane, he hears an argument about how a child and their parents should sit in different parts of the aircraft. Justin decides to give up his seat and heads to the back of the plane. Justin sits in an empty seat and fastens his seatbelt. He is about to take the instruction manual, as the flight attendant instructed, but instead of a booklet, he finds an MP3 player with headphones. It's playing a recording titled The Tragic Mystery of Flight 1015. Justin's curiosity is piqued, and he puts on the headphones. A calm voice on the recording narrates the first chapter of the podcast. The voice describes everything that is happening on board the plane right now. The flight attendant goes over the safety procedures and conducts the briefing. It's raining at the airport, and the passengers of flight 1015 have no idea that their plane will disappear from all radar screens in less than an hour. I'll tell you about the last minutes of the passengers on flight 1015. Justin keeps listening to the recording, and he thinks that it's either someone's prank or just an old recording. But suddenly the voice on the recording mentions the last name of the captain in this story.
One of them is about Captain Denora. The pilot said his name is Captain Denora.
What? This starts to alarm Justin. He asks the neighbor to listen to the recording and explains that the podcast talks about how this plane will soon disappear into the ocean, but the guy isn't interested in listening to anything. Please listen and tell me, I don't want lies. A woman sitting next to Justin looks at him and smiles. He decides to keep listening to the recording. The voice explains that right now the pilots have spotted a flock of cormorants, and this bird is considered a bad omen. And after that, exactly it. A bird got into the plane's engine. Justin heads to the bathroom, splashing cold water on his face. He returns to his seat and fastens his seatbelt. Justin calls the flight attendant, but she doesn't want to come over to him. So her partner comes over. Justin asks if it's true that a bird hit the engine. But the flight attendant says she doesn't know that, and it's unlikely because birds don't fly at that altitude. Justin insists and wants the flight attendant to ask the pilot, but in response he just hears a request to calm down and not to bother them anymore, over trivial matters. Many passengers are paying attention to Justin because of his strange behavior. Joe sits down next to Justin and says that it really was a bird. He was also a pilot, and Justin is right. Joe even knows the captain of this plane, and his last name is indeed Donner. And he tells Justin that the pilots definitely won't say anything. Justin continues to listen to the recording and learns an important detail. The voice narrates that the last words transmitted by the pilot to the dispatcher were, "Good evening, New York." And the plane will disappear from the radar. Exactly at... Justin has only 45 minutes left.
What could have happened? What could have caused an entire plane to disappear without a trace?
At that moment, the pilot announces that a storm will catch up with them faster than they expected, and there might be a little turbulence on board, but there's no reason to worry. However, Justin is already on edge about the fact that this is really happening to him. The voice continues to narrate and moves on to the second chapter of the investigation. He says that it is only known that the plane disappeared from the radar exactly 1 hour after takeoff somewhere over the Atlantic Ocean. All 117 people disappeared that day. Justin opens his notebook and starts jotting down all the details. The voice suggests that aviation disasters can usually be predicted and avoided. You just need to find the cause. Justin closely watches the flight attendants and their behavior, but he doesn't notice anything unusual. There are also cameras in the cockpit that stream the footage directly to the cabin for the passengers. But the crew isn't showing any signs either. Worries. Justin is brainstorming ideas about what could cause a plane to crash. Maybe it's a bomb or a terrorist attack. The voice reports that the pilots were supposed to inform the dispatcher about their approach to the storm, but that didn't happen. What caused the communication interference? Justin walks through the cabin and sees that a few Arabs are using their phones. He asks them to turn it off, but they consider it racism, because the phone is in airplane mode and they have the right to use it. Justin gets worked up, but the flight attendant calms him down and insists that he sit in his seat. Justin turns the player back on, and the voice says that if we can't identify any external factors that affected the flight, we should look into any data about the plane and its passengers. The voice says that in the front part of the plane there is a passenger named Igor Orlov. This is a witness who is under the witness protection program and is flying to Tel Aviv to take him out. To testify against the Russian mafia, along with him, an air marshal is on board.
It's clear that the Russian mafia would do anything to stop Orlov from testifying.
Justin approaches the flight attendant and says he urgently needs to speak with the air marshal, but the flight attendant isn't sure if he's on board. She asks him to return to his seat and stop bothering her. Justin meets Joe, and he thinks that Joe is the air marshal. But Joe says it's not him. He gives him advice. If Justin wants to recognize suspicious behavior, he needs to act suspiciously and draw attention. Justin takes the advice to heart. He approaches the sleeping Russian guys and starts rummaging through their bags, drawing attention. He hopes to identify the marshal this way. The guys wake up and start yelling at the journalist. But it turns out that this is not Igor Orlov. Justin raises a real commotion and tells the flight attendant that the Russian mafia wants to kill Igor Orlov, and because of that the plane could crash. But the real Igor Orlov, hearing this, bursts out from the front of the plane and starts causing a commotion too. The captain comes out and demands that Justin return to his seat. He tries once more to convince the captain that they need to check their bags, but the captain is insistent. Justin keeps walking through the cabin and puts on his headphones.
And the last important person is journalist Justin Sanderson.
The voice says very scary things. If you've heard anything about the tragic fate of Flight 1015, it's probably about journalist Justin Sanderson. The video of Justin Sanderson disturbing the peace of the passengers by demanding to check the bags of the Russian guys was uploaded online shortly before the disappearance. The captain approaches Justin again and demands that he return to his seat. He tries to find out what Justin is trying to do and what he's aiming for, to which Justin responds, "About 4. In a minute you'll say the words 'Good night, New York.'" He asks not to say that phrase. The captain asks why. Sanderson replies that this will be the last phrase he utters during this flight. "I swear to God." The marshal turns out to be a woman who smiled at him at the beginning of the flight. She holds him back and says that she heard everything and is sure that podcasts can't predict the future. Justin says that he has had breakdowns before, but this is different. It's all real now.
This is not caused by memories of the past. What's happening right now is real.
He says that he has evidence proving that the plane will really disappear. The marshal says that Justin just needs to admit that he's wrong, and then it will be easier to recover. The captain takes the marshal away, and Justin continues to listen to the recording. A voice says that just minutes before the disappearance, there are many clues and speculations, but no true answer to what really happened. All the passengers are flying and have no idea what is about to happen. And there's only one question. Could this have been prevented? Joe sits down next to Justin and says that he believes him.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you for believing me.
Justin is sure that he's right. He comes up with a plan. Joe has to land the plane, but Joe doesn't know the code for the cockpit. Justin looks at the player and figures out that the code for the cockpit is 1015. Joe says that when he takes the controls, he'll lower the temperature and raise the pressure in the cabin so that all the passengers fall asleep. After all, they don't need to panic. There's 1 minute left until the disappearance, and Joe hands an oxygen tank to Justin. "You're doing the right thing. You're saving these souls." Joe enters the cockpit and knocks them out. The cameras show what's happening in the cockpit. Joe addresses the passengers and smiles at the camera. He wishes everyone a pleasant end to the flight. Panic breaks out in the cabin. Justin puts on a mask and walks through the cabin, where all the passengers have already fallen asleep. Joe thanks Justin for helping him understand how to escape from the past. There's only one way to do this, and Justin will escape with him. Justin realizes that he became the cause of the plane's disappearance.
Good night indeed. York is truly with us. Certainly, Titum. Indeed, certainly.
The plane starts to fall into the Atlantic Ocean, but Joe wakes up on the shore, surrounded by scattered belongings. He sees the wreckage of the plane and finds a player. A voice narrates that the continuation of this story is just as strange as the whole story itself. For several months, rescuers couldn't find the wreckage of the plane, and there was no hope of finding any survivors. But one day, a cargo ship stumbled upon a small island, where all the passengers of Flight 1015 were located. All the passengers survived except for one, Justin Sanderson. Justin sees the passengers behind him, and they are very hostile towards him. They want to kill him. And with that, the episode ends. Share your thoughts on what you've seen. Just a reminder about our goal of 300,000 subscribers. Support us for our efforts. Also turn on the bell so you can watch new interesting movies together.